parents had a feud, and for no other reason because their parents had a feud with a particular culture that lived in the mountain next door or the landscape next door. So the idea then is that these stories are carried down, culturally, individually, and through families. But it inhibits the diversity of the situation of the area. And so psychologically, this could be the same thing. If we have an envy or a jealousy or a resentment towards someone, we have already squished that vein of diversity. We've pinched it. And so it's, again, not to do group therapy and get you to let go of your envy or whatever, but to be noticing of it, to notice that that's what's going on when you're in a situation, to notice that I feel resentment towards this person, I feel envious towards this person, because that's going to affect your communication with that person in your relationship, how you relate or not to that person. So in pruning, when we prune our trees or when we prune our own ecosystem psychologically, we compost these dead cuttings, right? When we prune our tree, we collect our cuttings, we put them into our compost pile to be recycled and restored. We can do this psychologically as well, too. We can compost psychologically. And the benefit of this then is that we gain knowledge or an understanding about ourselves that we didn't previously have. I didn't know I felt that way about that person. I didn't know I felt that way about that situation. Gosh, no wonder I haven't been really present at the table when these discussions have gone on. I've checked out because I feel this way or I think that way about this individual or this situation or this problem. I've caught myself at the Congress doing that a few times. This has been kind of interesting. So my question then is, where might you be laying down new roots? Something that you came across, your experience, an idea that you got while you were here, you want to take back home and implement into your organization, or maybe something that you will implement in your life from today. I don't know. But where might you be laying down new roots, thinking of a new job, new ideas, a new partnership, a new business strategy or adventure? Maybe you decide to move while you're here. You're going to relocate to Jeju. So that's your question to work with for a few minutes. Where might you be laying down new roots? Again, psychologically, this can be, where am I creating a new idea about something? I didn't think about this before. So maybe you prune an old way of thinking, an old way of doing something, and then you're opening that avenue for a new branch to come through. Yes, please.
You can recognize a way of thinking, but how do you prune it? Because it's obviously a very habitual way of thinking. So is it that you're always aware when you start to go back to that old way of thinking and you try to check it?
Yeah, really good question, Wendy. Well, I think when, the thinking, again, we're operating from a thinking function. So it could be interesting to see how you feel about whatever it is you're thinking about. So just thinking about it rationally, is there an emotion or a feeling that is associated with that? That will give you some information to work with as well. Let me see if I can give you an example. If you're in a meeting and you prepared for this meeting, and you come to it and people are discussing the particular problem, and you're going through the data in your mind, and someone says something that goes maybe counter to your research, counter to your data. They're not just countering your data. The perception can also be they're countering you. They're countering, something that you believe in. Then you get into some You know, we get into those intrapsychic situations, interpersonal situations, yeah. And that's very hard to read sometimes. Are they talking about, you know, my data, my information, my research, or is it me? So again, that's that place of distancing and trying to more psychologically assess the situation. And I'm very open about communication. You know, can you explain what you just said? Or, you know, for the most part, you can't ask someone directly. I mean, not in my experiences. Okay, is it me or my research? Because they're not going to say, oh, yeah, I don't like you anymore. They're going to say, no, I don't get your research. But you still know there's something, you can feel there's something else going on at the table there. So you can't always directly, you know, approach it. You have to get some distance from it, come at it from a different angle, maybe talk with that person afterwards. I'm not going to tell you how to do intrapsychic relationships. You don't know how to do those very well, but it is something that does come up a lot.
I mean, say, in an academic environment, there's always like this competition to be, you know, the smartest and brightest. Therefore, you know, the culture is one of critique. So anything anyone says, you're supposed to put on heart, because that shows, you know, good thinking. Yeah. So it's, you know, how you deal with those sorts of cultures. It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Did you say how you deal with different cultures?
Well, no, I'm saying the culture of the academic, who feels they have to always critique everything.
Yeah.
Put up.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly been in faculty meetings where that has happened too. And you know, I have to be honest with that. With carrying some of the understanding I have, I might feel reactive to something someone says, but that doesn't mean I react to it. It's just a way of managing my ecosystem, if you will, regulating my ecosystem, my energy flow, instead of, you know, expressing or forcing my expression to, how would you say that? It's okay, I'm feeling pretty, you know, resistant to this. What the individual just said goes completely against my belief system. So what do? Do you actually turn off to the whole meeting, or do you stay with it? That's what I meant earlier about holding the tension. The ecopsychology asks us to be able to hold these places of tension. And that actually is cultivating diversity too. Where you don't shut down to something that's not going hand in foot with your belief system or your ideas or your goals or your value system. But listen to it all the way through if you can. Hold the tension of that. So where might you be laying down new roots? So diversity then is asking us, I think, to consider who we are in all of our roles. And who we are is not the same as what we do. Who we are is more be a sense of an archetype. What is the archetype functioning as a teacher? What does it mean to be a teacher? What are the qualities of being a teacher? That would be an archetype. Mythologically, you know, the Greeks had a whole pantheon of archetypes, from Zeus, you know, the CEO, the father of the pantheon, the leader, to Aphrodite, the goddess of passion and beauty. Those are archetypes because they had qualities that meant this is a leadership quality, this is a fathering or judge, you know, the quality of a judge. Of course, each archetype has an opposite. You can be a good leader, or you can be a bully. You can see beauty in the world, or you can see ugliness in the world. So we carry, you know, these roles that we have, we carry two sides to each role. Positive, usually the negative side, or I usually use positive and negative because it's not quite as moralistic or judgmental, but it's just interesting to see that about ourselves. So diversity asks us to consider who we are in our roles as a teacher, who we are as an executive, who we are as the, you know, president of the organization, who we are as an activist, And what are the qualities that are being activated when we become an activist? There are going to be different qualities that are activated when we're a mother or a father. When we're in our parenting role, different qualities are activated. When we're at a negotiations table, you're there as a director, or you're there as representing your particular program. Different qualities are activated. So when you get around a negotiation table and things get a little chaotic, sometimes what's happening there is that people are bringing the wrong archetype to the table because they're unconscious of that. I've experienced a little bit of that this week at the workshops. Someone becomes very mothering to the whole group, which wasn't necessary. Or someone becomes, very, well, let me just give you an example so beat around the bush. The other day when we were at, it was a gender pavilion with Red and the Gender and Social Equality group, and they had a panel, two guys and three women, and they were to speak of their experiences of gender inequality. And the microphone went to the gentleman first because he said he had something he wanted, it was important for him to say. And these workshops or these pavilions are very short, what, an hour maybe, or an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. And the two gentlemen used the majority of the time. Didn't even think that they were using that much time, or I actually think unconscious of the amount of time they were using, and not conscious that there were three women that had something to say about the issue as well. And the issue was about they didn't have, the time and the space or the voice. So I thought that was kind of interesting to observe. And it was interesting to observe the group too. There were some frustrations and levels of frustration that came from that as well. So those kinds of things, are going to happen all the time. So in considering who we are, then we consider who we bring to the table at any time. If I was today leading this as not a teacher archetype, but as a different archetype, it would be a whole different session. So, I get up in the morning and I really ask for those qualities for me being a teacher is to come forward today. So it's kind of the same thing when you go to a negotiation table. What archetype are you bringing forward? And is it the appropriate one or not? Okay. So for our exercise today, it would be kind of interesting if we switched up, but we have predominantly women, so it's probably not going to really work. But I do want you to share this with each other. And if you can, the first question here to share with your group is, where is the most amount of diversity in your life? And that would be sort of like right now, if we don't need to dig back too far, just sort of where you are right now. Can you articulate to your cohorts where there is the most amount of diversity in your life right now? It could be in your family. Maybe there's a new baby, a new child, a new puppy dog, a new kitty cat. Or maybe in your work, you've added 2 or 3 employees to the mix, and there's some integration time going on there. So where in your life now is there the most amount of diversity, and we identify that? You can jot it down, and then if you would share it with your because it's very interesting to hear from other people where their diversity and their sense of diversity is. This is very interesting to share, if you will. Or you can certainly pick up the microphone and share it with the group.